Hey, before we start the video, I just want to make something abundantly clear. I like gay guys. When I see a guy who is gay, I think, I like that. That guy is gay and that is a-okay. He does gay stuff and that's cool as hell. However, I like gay guys. However, it's probably not a great sentence. So I like gay guys. I myself am bisexual, so sometimes I'm even attracted to gay guys. I know, crazy, right? However, there is a specific type of gay guy that just kind of fucking gets under my skin. These dudes are sometimes referred to as mean girl twinks, or evil twinks, or demon twinks. Basically, it's a specific type of twink who tends to have a massive ego that is absolutely not earned whatsoever, and they make it their entire personality to be as mean and loud and abrasive as possible. And a lot of times these evil twinks are also massive pick-me's who will throw other minorities under the bus to try to gain acceptance from society as a whole. I would say that Jeffree Star falls under this archetype, or the conservative TikToker Christian Walker, if you remember him, or that dude Milo Yiannopoulos, that fucking asshole. I would say that these evil twinks are often a symptom of the cycle of abuse, where they were probably bullied as a child for being gay, but then when they get older and they gain some level of acceptance, usually from white girls, they then decide to become the bullies and act like massively annoying dickheads to everyone around them. I've seen some people explaining this phenomenon with the phrase, "You're not Regina George, you're just George," which I find pretty funny. Basically, these twinks want to give off the cool, collected, mean girl energy of Regina George from the movie Mean Girls, but usually they just kinda end up giving off the energy of a yapping chihuahua who never shuts the fuck up. Now, the nuance to this is that there is a stereotype of gay men being annoying, and I don't want to play into that stereotype, but I believe in equality, which means that everyone equally has the ability to be annoying. And the thing that I find most annoying is when these twinks decide to become massive pick-me's who throw other minorities under the bus because they think it makes them bad bitches, when really it just makes them bad people. And we'll be looking at one of the most recent examples of this evil twink archetype today, the TikToker Peyton Piper. Peyton Piper is what I like to call a rage gator, which of course is short for gay rage baiter. He likes to start most of his TikToks with some sort of inflammatory statement that will either piss people off or at least surprise them enough to want to keep watching.
I have the fattest crush on Donald Trump. Bring back bullying. I don't understand why I'm getting banned for saying slurs.
You're not ugly, you're just black.
Abortion is murder. I wish I met Lily Tino in person so I could misgender him.
So, yeah, not a fan of this vibe. I think you can get your point across without screaming directly into my face and making me feel like I can smell your braces breath through the screen.
And if you're still fighting bitches after high school, you're not scary, you're just a ghetto bitch. Is there a window open? Who said that? And they were like, oh, you mean black people. When did I say black people? Nothing that I said was talking about black people.
Jesus Christ, please back the fuck up. Black people, black people, black people. Now, I'm not saying that this dude is racist necessarily, but the tone of voice that he uses when he says black people reminds me of fucking Adam Driver from the movie Black Klansman.
Now keep driving, you black spear chucker piece of shit!
Black people, black people, black people.
Peyton, the word is black, not black. I think if when you talk about black people, you suddenly start sounding like you're trying to fucking puke up a hairball, maybe you should rethink the way that this makes you come across. If I was like, guys, come on, I have absolutely nothing against the gays, I think my tone of voice seems to imply that maybe I actually might have a little bit of a something against the gays. Now, to be fair to Peyton, even though his videos start off with these inflammatory opening statements, he often then goes on to clarify that he isn't actually trying to say anything bigoted. For example, in this video that he starts off by saying, "You're not ugly, you're just black."
You're not ugly, you're just black.
He then goes on to clarify that he thinks it's bad to think that black people are ugly just because they're black. Thank you, Peyton. Peyton for this revolutionary take. I was under the impression that it's actually good to think that black people are ugly just because they're black. You have cured me of my racism. So even though in a lot of videos he tries to come across like he isn't bigoted, in other videos he tries to make like a semi-progressive take while at the same time just saying ignorant, stupid shit. Like this video where he says that technically abortion is murder.
Abortion is murder. By definition, look it up. The unlawful killing of another individual is technically murder, but I think it's really interesting. People want to make moral arguments with legal terms. Laws that were only established like 5 years ago when the trigger bans happened. You can't do that, especially when you elected a felon, friend.
Okay, so I think the point that he's trying to make is that even if abortion is technically murder by the definition of the word murder, that doesn't necessarily make it immoral. However, he just clearly does not know what he's talking about. Yes, legally, the definition of murder is the unlawful killing of another human being. So if you're in a state where abortion is illegal, yes, it could technically be murder by the legal definition of the word murder. However, when pro-choice people say that abortion isn't murder, they're using the philosophical definition of the word murder, not the legal definition. The philosophical definition of the word murder is the unjustified killing of another human being. And pro-choice people believe that the termination of a fetus is justified, usually on the grounds of bodily autonomy or consciousness or a combination of the two. So when pro-choice people say that abortion is not murder, they are using the philosophical definition of the word murder. Whether an action is morally justified or whether it is legal is two separate conversations because legality doesn't always map onto morality. And Peyton seems to understand this, and this is the point that he's trying to make in his video, but he doesn't understand that there are two separate definitions of the word murder. This dude clearly just Googled the definition of the word murder and then thought, ooh, this will make a good hot take for my TikTok where I can say that technically abortion actually is murder. Basically, he's doing an actually that isn't even accurate. If you're gonna do an actually, then your actually needs to actually be accurate. This plays directly into what I said before about these evil twinks having inflated egos where they think they understand things a lot better than they actually do. Which is especially ironic because Peyton himself has scolded people for speaking confidently about things that they aren't actually educated about.
But y'all literally repeat what you read in the comment section because you don't know how to do research and you just, it sticks in your memory. You're like, oh, that's a good argument. I should repeat that. No, you shouldn't. You should never, don't repeat something unless you know what it means.
That is a great point, Peyton. I think you should definitely take your own advice. And look, this is a young guy and everyone speaks confidently sometimes about things that they aren't actually educated about. Like, I've gotten a lot of shit because a few years ago I confidently stated in a video that Hitler hated Israel while not realizing that Israel wasn't even founded until after World War II. And now after learning more about Israel, turns out Hitler might have actually kind of liked some of the stuff that Israel's been getting up to these days. So anyway, my point is that I think it would be pretty hypocritical for me to like destroy this guy just because he got a few things wrong. However, when you do get something wrong, I think the important thing is the ability to admit that you're wrong and have humility. And from what I've seen, Peyton is definitely lacking in the humility department. But I didn't just make this video because I find Peyton annoying and because I think he should be more humble and educate himself more before he yaps about certain topics. No, I made this video because I think he's genuinely anti-trans, and he's recently gotten himself into controversy because he thinks it would be good to misgender the TikToker Lily Tino.
I wish I met Lily Tino in person so I could misgender him. Like pointing the camera at people. Are you gonna say that to the camera? What's your name? Yes, I will. Lily Tino, you're a man. My name is Peyton. What's up? Or canceling me because I said Lily Tino was a man. Go look her up on Twitter and tell me that's not a man.
So Peyton really wants to meet Lily Tino in person and misgender her because if you look at Lily Tino, you can clearly see that Lily Tino is actually a man. Peyton seems to think that some trans women are valid, but other trans women aren't valid because if you look at them, you can clearly tell that they're men. I wonder if he would apply this standard to other members of the LGBT community. If there was a gay guy who was more like stereotypically masculine and he didn't like stereotypical gay guy things or dress like a stereotypical gay guy, would it then be okay to say, actually, you're not gay? I mean, just look at you. You are clearly not gay. I will not accept your gay identity until I've seen your penis go into a man's butthole. Like, that would be dumb, right? This is why you can't judge someone's sexuality or their gender just by looking at them. Now, I'm fully aware that me criticizing Peyton for this and me saying that I don't think you should misgender Lily Tino just because she doesn't look feminine enough will inevitably lead to people thinking that I'm defending Lily Tino. Well, I know this might be a bit controversial to say, but I believe that Lily Tino is a bad person. I know, crazy hot take for someone on YouTube to say. I don't think it's good to loudly talk about penises and vaginas and balls while you're at Disney and you know that there are children nearby. I don't think it's good to take photos in the women's restroom without these women's consent. And I don't think that it's good to play into basically every negative stereotype that conservative people have about trans women in order to rage bait people for fame and attention. I think that Lily Tino is a real piece of shit and she's obviously not a good representative of the trans community. But I just hope people are aware of the pattern of what's happening here. Every few years or so, there's a new trans woman who gets singled out on the internet as proof that all trans women are evil. Quite a few years ago, it was this trans woman named Jessica Yaniv. In the past few years, I would say it's been Keffels, and I would also say that Chris Chan is another example of someone that people use to attack trans women. Basically, the cycle goes, a trans woman does some genuinely bad stuff, the internet latches onto that trans woman as proof that all trans women are dangerous, that trans woman gets relentlessly bullied, and then the cycle repeats itself. And then if you call out this cycle, people will then accuse you of defending these trans women's bad behavior. Now, I definitely think it is very stupid to say, don't criticize these trans women because criticizing trans women helps transphobes. This is obviously dumb. Trans women are not above criticism just because they're trans, just like Peyton is not above criticism just because he's gay, and I'm not above criticism just because I'm a fat non-binary bisexual who's been wondering recently if he might be low-key autistic. And I will even admit that sometimes people on the left can be too quick to defend trans women. Like when Chris Tyson was recently exposed for being a weirdo, I saw some leftists jumping to defend her, which I thought was really dumb. And Keffels has even accused me of being transphobic before because I criticized her. All I'm saying is to be aware of the hysteria on the internet surrounding trans women who are genuinely bad people, which is then used to delegitimize all trans people. And I think it is good to criticize Lily Tino. It's not bad to make fun of Lily Tino, but I think that this mass hysteria surrounding Lily Tino can sometimes go a bit overboard. That's all I'm saying. And just like I don't think it makes sense to misgender trans people just because they don't look trans enough, I also don't think it makes sense to misgender trans people just because they're bad people. Again, I don't think Peyton would appreciate if people use this logic for gay dudes. You know, I support gay marriage until I find out that a gay guy's a bad person. Once you do bad things as a gay guy, your marriage license should be revoked. So just like I don't think that gay marriage is conditional based on a person's morality, I also don't think that gender is conditional based on a person's morality. We would never say that a cis person has to lose their gender if they commit a crime. Otherwise, there would be no genders in prison. Step aside, alligator Alcatraz. It's time for agender Alcatraz. Now, do I think that misgendering one trans woman like Lily Tino, who is a genuinely bad person, is like a world-ending war crime? No. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really care that much if Lily Tino's feelings get hurt. The thing that I do care about is the precedent this sets when you spread this message to millions of people, because this gives your followers the green light to start misgendering trans people in their lives if you decide that those trans people either don't pass well enough or they're bad enough people. Like, I can only imagine how many trans women and trans girls these days get called Lily Tino as a way to bully them if they don't pass well enough. So Peyton got quite a bit of backlash on TikTok for this take that he wants to meet Lily Tino in person so that he can misgender her, so he made this follow-up.
Or canceling me because I said Lily Tino was a man. Go look her up on Twitter and tell me that's not a man. Men do not belong in female spaces no matter what they identify as. And I do, like, that is not basic human decency. Lily Tino is a biological male. Lily Tino compared trans women and biological women to croissants, like a big croissant and a small croissant. No, it is apples to oranges. You are fundamentally different.
Whoa, you're telling me that there are differences between trans women and cis women? I had no idea. Thank you so much for educating me, Peyton. Obviously, there are differences between trans women and cis women. That's why we put the adjectives trans and cis before the word women, because they are not exactly the same. If they were exactly the same, then there would be no need for these adjectives. I'm sure Lily Tino made some dumbass analogy in one of her videos that didn't really make any sense, but that's the whole point of Lily Tino's content. She makes dumbass analogies to rage bait people for attention. And the fact that Peyton said men do not belong in female spaces no matter what they identify as clearly shows that his opinions extend to all trans women, not just Lily Tino. So by criticizing him, again, I am not trying to defend Lily Tino. I'm trying to defend against the ideas that he is pushing to all of his audience, which will make them more anti-trans. Peyton then goes on to say that there's a trans woman who debated Candace Owens, who in his opinion is an example of a real trans woman.
Go watch the Candace Owens trans woman debate. I agree with everything that trans woman said. Not Candace Owens, she's a little bit too crazy, but listen, that is trans woman, not Lily Tino.
So I went and watched this debate, and yeah, this trans woman certainly passes better than Lily Tino, and she seems like she's a better person than Lily Tino, but again, I just don't think it logically makes sense to define gender based on how someone passes or how good of a person someone is. I think that gender is defined by someone's internal sense of self. Now, Lily Tino could possibly be lying about identifying as a trans woman. There is always a possibility that Lily Tino is lying about being trans for attention, but I just don't really believe in accusing people of lying without concrete evidence that they're lying. And when you say that men don't belong in female spaces no matter what they identify as, does this also apply to this trans woman who you consider one of the good ones? Does she also not belong in female spaces? Do you think that she also shouldn't be allowed to use the women's restroom? I know that when you say men don't belong in female spaces no matter what they identify as, you think you're trying to defend cis women and give them a safe space. But the thing is, the purpose of safe spaces is to keep people safe. And from what I've seen, there's no evidence to suggest that keeping trans women out of women's restrooms actually keeps cis women more safe on average. According to this study, Gender Identity Non-Discrimination Laws in Public Accommodations, a review of evidence regarding safety and privacy in public restrooms and changing rooms, they found that passing a law making it legal for trans women to use the restroom of their choice did not lead to any increase in the rates of violence towards women in these restrooms. Now, of course, you are going to get the occasional freaks like Lily Tino who do decide to do bad things in the women's restroom, like take pictures of women without their consent, but cis women also sometimes commit crimes and do bad shit in women's restrooms. What matters are the statistical trends, not the outliers. Well, then you might say, okay, even if it isn't statistically more dangerous, what if cis women just feel uncomfortable sharing a restroom with a trans woman? The issue with this argument is that there are many cis women who do feel perfectly comfortable sharing restrooms with trans women, and if you segregate restrooms by sex instead of by gender, you would be forcing trans men into the women's restrooms. I think if most women saw this trans dude walking into the women's restroom, they would not feel comfortable with this, and they wouldn't just be like, oh well, he probably has XX chromosomes, so it's fine. Personally, I do think that we should care about cis women's feelings, and when cis women talk about their comfort levels, I don't think we should just immediately dismiss them and accuse them of being transphobic. But I think we also need to take trans women's comfort levels into account. And we also need to take into account the comfort levels of cis women who wouldn't feel comfortable sharing a restroom with trans men. And we need to take trans men's comfort levels into account who don't want to be forced to use the women's restroom. You can't just say, listen to women when they tell you that they're uncomfortable, but then the only women you want me to listen to are the anti-trans women. The phrase listen to women sounds nice on paper, but the issue is that sometimes different groups of women have conflicting interests, which is why we have to use democracy to resolve these conflicts. Anyway, I believe that a world where we allow trans people to use the restrooms that they want to use is preferable to a world where we force them to use restrooms they don't want to use. And I don't think that some cis women feeling uncomfortable is a valid enough reason to go against this, because if we do, we have to fuck over trans women, trans men, and the cis women who don't feel comfortable sharing restrooms with trans men.
I talk shit shit about Lily Tino and I get hate comments, the most I've ever gotten. I click on the profile, it says they, thee, thy, them, zog, self. What the fuck does that even mean? You don't even know what you are. Literally, I'm like, you're not a boy or a girl. You're a lunatic. You need to be locked up, put in an institution. Bring back institutionalizing people. And I'm not talking about like the regular run-of-the-mill special people. No, I'm talking about the people who literally think that they have multiple people inside their head. They identify as multiple people. The DID system thing. Bring back bullying. We fucked up as a society when we said, no bullying, that's not okay. We don't bully people for things that are normal, but that shit's not normal.
Bring back bullying, said the most stereotypically bullyable person on the entire planet. It's just so funny when twinks like this say to bring back bullying while not being aware that if we do bring back bullying, they will be some of the first people to be bullied. You are a nerdy, four eyes, glasses wearing, braces faced twink with one of the most annoying voices I have ever heard. You are the literal poster child of a gay nerd from an 80s movie who would get their head shoved into a toilet by the bullies. And look, I realize that I am also pretty bullyable. I'm relatively fat, I don't have a great hairline, my voice is also pretty annoying, and I literally wear a suit in my fucking YouTube videos like a pretentious douchebag. I am also a poster child for being bullied, which is why I try not to throw bricks in a glass house. But if you really want to bring back bullying, I guess we can try that out, but I don't think you're gonna be happy with the results. And what do you mean when you say that we should only bully people who are not normal?
That shit's not normal.
Throughout all of history, the people who have been bullied are the ones that are not normal. You were just lucky enough to be born into a time where your twink ass is seen as normal by a lot of people. But yeah, let's lock up anyone who Peyton thinks isn't normal. After President Trump, let's get President Peyton in there to lock up all the undesirables like non-binary people or people with dissociative identity disorder. And look, are some non-binary people on social media cringe and annoying? Sure. Are there a few people on TikTok who convince themselves that they have dissociative identity disorder for attention? Absolutely. But if our standard is that we need to lock up anyone who is cringe, annoying, and does shit for attention, then Peyton will be the first one in line to the cringe gulags. And again, I know that Peyton is young, and he's probably riding high off of getting so much attention on TikTok for being a bully. But trust me, in the long run, trying to build a social media career off of being a bully is just not sustainable. And if we keep pushing for a world with more and more and more bullying, that is just going to bite you in the ass. It's like the gays for Trump who wanted to get Trump elected because they thought he was just going to be anti-trans, but now it turns out that the Supreme Court is considering overturning gay marriage. Throwing other minorities under the bus is just not a good long-term strategy if your goal is to improve your own life. So maybe when we see people on social media who might be a bit cringe and annoying, we should try to strike a balance between giving them genuine criticism, but also showing them empathy and understanding. Because at the end of the day, I care about twinks like Peyton, and I do not want to regress to a world where people like him get thrown into lockers and get their heads shoved into toilets. And while I completely agree that Lily Tino is a bad person, we need to be careful not to get so wrapped up in the hysteria around bad trans people that we end up throwing innocent people under the bus. And I think all these twinks who so badly want to be like Regina George need to remember what happens to Regina George.
You can take that fake apology and shove it right up your hairy...
If you keep deciding to throw other minorities under the bus, eventually that exact same bus is coming for you, bitch. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video. If you want to access exclusive videos from me, consider becoming a member of this channel or a member over on Patreon. I know I talked about trans issues quite a bit in this video. Well, the other video that I recently released also talks about trans issues, but it gives more of a philosophical breakdown of trans identity. So if that sounds interesting, consider becoming a member for just $3 a month. And an especially big thank you to my Godbeard level members, Scaries, Jacob Curl, Novaj Ren, and Kelly Wright. And I will see you soon with part 2 of my series about that crazy lady Kendra who fell in love with her psychiatrist. All right, see you then.